The Boost formula style of gameplay has been the main way to play 3D Sonic games since Sonic Unleashed in 2008. The latest game in this style, Sonic Forces, has shown the evolution, or rather de-evolution, of the formula from being open and linear to being Hallway Simulator 2017. Hello everyone, and welcome back to BGA TVHD, the show where we do gaming commentaries every single week. On today's episode, we'll not only be reviewing Sonic Forces, but examining and evaluating the Boost formula as a whole. First, let's stop from the top of the Boost story, in 2008's Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Unleashed was released on November 18, 2008, and punted 3D Sonic out of the first Dark Age. The game dropped the adventure formula, which 3D Sonic had been using since 1998, in favor of a more linear, speedy structure. Along with the new gameplay structure, the game also sported a new engine, the Hedgehog engine. At the time, the graphics were stunning, and I'd still argue the graphics are stunning today. Even though the Hedgehog engine 2 has been used in newer titles such as Sonic Forces, the Hedgehog engine still looks amazing. Sega initially showed the Boost gameplay, and it looked great. After Sonic 06 and Sonic and the Secret Rings, this return to form promised a great experience. However, this was only one side of the story. A trademark of 75% of the Boost games is that they feature one or more alternative playstyles besides Sonic, though, up until Sonic Forces, the only character you played as in Boost games was Sonic. In Sonic Unleashed, you played as Sonic in two types of stages. Daytime, where the Boost formula was in effect and quick reaction times, winding pathways, and blazing speeds brought one of the smoothest 3D Sonic experiences to date, and nighttime, where Sonic transformed into a terrifying amalgamation of werewolves and hedgehogs, and a surprisingly deep beat-em-up combat system came into place. This acted as a replacement for the multiple styles seen in the adventure games in 06. While the daytime stages were praised over and over, the opposite effect happened on the nighttime stages. Those were beaten into the ground for not being like Sonic. On this I can agree, there were too many nighttime stages and they were too long. However, the positives outweigh the negatives. While the nighttime stages were flawed, there was still a lot of depth and fun to be had in them. The only problem was that this was a Sonic game, and in these stages you couldn't go fast. Even in the treasure hunting stages and mech stages of SA2, you were able to go kinda fast, and especially in the treasure hunting stages where the whole point was to use the fast-paced abilities to your advantage to clear the stages faster. The Werehog was not what fans wanted from a Sonic game, so when Sonic Team came back, they only made sure to put the game on the Wii and DS. 2 years later, Sonic Team came back with a vengeance. On the Wii, they released Sonic Colors, the second Boost formula game. Gone was the second playstyle, and now we got pure, perfect Boost gameplay. However, there was one problem. While the game had a gimmick, it didn't interfere with gameplay and instead added to it. The problem instead had to do with how levels were structured. Sonic Unleashed had one major level, sometimes two, and a few extra missions. This is how it was for both daytime and nighttime stages in every location you visited throughout the adventure. In Sonic Colors, you got one, maybe two longer 3D 2D mixed stages, and 4 or so fully 2D stages. Now, one of the bigger elements of Boost gameplay is that each level has a mix of linear 3D action and more platforming-focused 2D platformer segments. Unleashed had quite a perfect mix of 2D and 3D in the stages, but Colors takes the 2D segments to the extreme. There was too much platforming, and the little amounts of 3D there were felt a bit similar after a while. They were also more closely resembling Forces stages in how the 3D was laid out. Some of the best stages in the game were still the ones with more 3D. This was Sonic Colors' biggest flaw. The game was still great, but it didn't come near the level of the Unleashed Boost stages. The game wasn't helped by the fact it was only on the Wii, and while most other 7th gen Sonic games were available on 8th gen platforms, since Sonic Colors was only on the Wii and DS, there's no way to play it besides the Wii U, Wii, DS, or 3DS. Sonic Colors had a certain style to it that people liked, and with the feedback of the 2D overload, Sonic Team did the most sensible thing they could. Go back to how it was before and make it better. However, they also brought back the second style. In 2011, Sega released Sonic's 20th anniversary game, Sonic Generations. This was the third Boost game and clearly the best. The game went back to Unleashed's perfect mix of 2D and 3D, with the same stunning visuals as before. This being an anniversary game, and the 20th anniversary at that, Sega decided to do something very different. They brought back a younger Sonic through time and space to meet his modern, older counterpart. The two gameplay styles featured in this game was a 3D, 2D mix of highly complex linear stages with blazing speeds and platforming segments, and fully 2D stages that were slower and didn't feature some of the same spectacle most of the time, feeling like a modern evolution of the classic games, which is what it was. The game was great and had lots to do, but Sonic Team had not fixed the major problem with colors. There was still too much 2D. This is because with both of the modern stages having alternating sections and classic stages being fully 2D, there was a huge imbalance in both perspectives, and the worst thing, these were the best Boost stages in the series. But sadly, because it was an anniversary title, it had to be shared. This game basically took all of the Boost elements from the last two games and fine-tuned them to perfection. This is what perfect modern 3D Sonic should feel like. Unfortunately, Sega wouldn't see it that way, and of course saw the success of classic Sonic and went after it with a vengeance. The next few years of Sonic were, well, the second Dark Age. The landscape was dotted with Sonic Boom, Sonic Runners, and Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. However, classic Sonic always seemed to be present in the picture. Sonic Runners and Sonic Dash had their fair share of classic Sonic, and Sonic Lost World, the next game in the main series, seemed to once again be based in nostalgia. Past 2013, there started the Dark Age, and some of the only normal Sonic things we got were based on classic Sonic or Lost World. But finally, 2016 came, and so did Sonic's 25th anniversary. The party where they announced both Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces was a disaster, but things seemed to be back on track. Even though Classic was set to be in Project Sonic 2017, Classic was getting a game all to himself, and the Project Sonic 2017 is Sonic Generations 2? Some fans were skeptical about Classic's inclusion in the next major game. Even though he was getting his own game, he was still being included in what should have been Modern Sonic's show. But how bad could the game be? Alright, here's where the actual review starts. Sonic Forces, well, it's a game. Oh, sorry, not a game, more of a glorified hallway simulator. But first, let's start with a brief plot synopsis. So the game opens with Eggman ranting about Sonic defeating him, most likely talking about the Lost Hex incident from the last game, and vowing to succeed with his new creation, Infinite. We've already got an inconsistency in the plot. Infinite is not a creation, he's a jackal. But enough about that, it's time for the game to start. The first level opens with Sonic running through Green Hill when he receives a message from Tails, saying the city is under attack. What city? I don't know. The levels in this city are literally called City. Sonic gets to the city in time to see Tails cowering with civilians as a new villain attacks the citizens. Tails has terrible characterization in this game, completely disregarding his arc from Adventure and Adventure 2. I hate Tails in this game for that reason only. Sonic finds out that Infinite is faster than him, then Chaos, Shadow, Metal Sonic, and Zavok show out of nowhere and annihilate Sonic, taking him prisoner. He's assumed to be dead for 6 months, while the Resistance, the only force fighting Eggman's complete takeover of the world in Sonic's absence, gets a message that Sonic is alive on the Death Egg, which I guess got rebuilt. Your custom character joins the Resistance, and everyone raids Chemical Plant's spaceport to get up into space and save Sonic. Meanwhile, Sonic breaks free thanks to your avatar and battles Zavok, and Zavok mysteriously disappears after getting defeated. Sonic goes back to Earth and joins up with the fight against Eggman. Things go well until Knuckles thinks up a military operation in a minute and a half, and nearly everyone dies. Right, so now the Resistance goes to Eggman's base and raids it, but Eggman summons the sun. The planet is about to be enveloped by this phantom sun when your OC uses a Phantom Ruby prototype to unsummon the sun, and the day is saved. That's the plot, but how does the game actually play? Start with Modern Sonic, which plays as the Boost formula, of course. This is a very stripped-down version of the Generations gameplay. Drifting is no longer an action you can perform, and the quick step sign is rarely something that is used, even though it still exists. Same with sliding, which is mapped to the same button as in Generations, but as far as I can tell, it is never used anywhere in the game. The levels are a massive step down from Generations stages. Gone are the winding pathways and stunning set pieces, replaced with linear hallways that offer little to no alternative pathways. There's no open areas in any of the levels, and the level design is not inspired. Most of the levels feel exactly the same. Let's see what my favorite and least favorite modern levels are. The only modern level I actually like is the last stage, Mortar Canyon. The reason I like this one so much is because it's the only fully 3D modern stage. There are some more unique concepts, if you could call them that, in this stage, and overall I'd say it's the best stage in the game besides Arsenal Pyramid. It's not the best stage, but it shows multiple pathways, and a little of the potential this game could have had if it had been more like Generations. My least favorite, I think it's a close battle between Sunset Heights and Metropolitan Highway, but I picked Sunset Heights for one simple reason. It's too short. The visuals are beautiful in this level, and you get a great view of Eggman's grip on this city, but it only has one 3D and one 2D section. This is the modern level they advertised so much before launch, and I thought this was like the first level. No, it's the 15th. I don't know what they were trying to do, like subvert expectations, and the level suffered because of it. Modern Sonic is a huge disappointment in this game, and I would be very sad if this exact form of Boost came back in the next line modern game. If they keep going with the Boost formula, they've got to change it up, or at least revert it exactly back to the Generations formula. Next, let's talk about the avatar. The avatar was a pretty unknown style of gameplay when it was first revealed. I had hoped it would be an adventure-style gameplay, but I was sorely mistaken. The avatar plays almost exactly like Modern Sonic, save for 3 key differences: Wisps, Wisp-Ons, and the grappling hook. Wisps work about the same way they did in past games, except that the Wisps can't be used by Modern or Classic Sonic now. The Wisp-On is the new major addition that differentiates this playstyle from Modern Sonic. It acts as a weapon activated by the right trigger or a key on PC, and fires a weapon that acts like the Wisp it's based off of. The grappling hook is the minor difference, and basically acts as a second mode of transportation in certain scenarios. The only other thing it does is make the homing attack delayed slightly, which I guess discourages you from using it, though I only see that as a problem. The main issue with the Avatar playstyle is that it's basically Sonic, but with 3 differences, and the levels are similar to the way that they feel like straight hallways with little variation. I'll show some key examples later, but let's move on to the last major playstyle, Classic Sonic. It pains me to say it, but Classic is by far the worst playstyle in this game. He plays mostly like he did in Generations except for 2 differences, one being that he has the drop dash from Sonic Mania and the other being the speed cap. The reason Classic sucks in this game is because of this speed cap. This basically stops you from playing Classic the way he's supposed to be played. Instead of gaining momentum by moving down a slope, you are now forced to use the drop dash or spin dash to gain speed quickly. Besides this, speed and invincibility monitors last about 3 seconds, making them obsolete and meaningless. You may have known that most of the locations you visit in the game are rehashed from previous games, those being Green Hill, Chemical Plant, and Death Egg. These account for half of Classic stages. The other half being Casino Forest, which is almost a complete copy of Casino Night, but with a new aesthetic, so I give it a pass. Ghost Town, taking place in the city, and Iron Fortress, which is possibly one of the worst 2D Sonic levels ever created in the history of the series. It has auto-scrolling, cheap mechanics, and is overlong and tedious. The shameless rehash of levels is one of the things that brings Classic down to a marketing ploy in this game. If he had also had a more prominent role in the story rather than just being there for 2 cutscenes, things would have been slightly better. People seem to think that Classic is way different from Generations, and while it technically is, it's closer than you might think. There are really only the 3 major additions to the change, to the formula, the speed cap, the drop dash, and the weighted jump. The weighted jump feels terrible all around, and I don't know what Sonic Team was thinking when they made the jump physics. The same applies to the other 2 styles as well. Their jumps feel as imprecise and weighted as Classic's, so this is a widespread issue, but it feels most prominent here because this is the style you'll be jumping the most in. The final and possibly most interesting playstyle in Sonic Forces is only used in 4 levels, this being the tag team mode, where you play as both Modern and the Avatar in an almost Sonic Heroes-like swapping scenario. Since you control both characters at once, they act as one entity as opposed to Heroes' AI-controlled teammates. I'll treat both characters as one for this segment. This playstyle by far has the most moves in the game. You have the homing attack, grapple homing attack, slide, wisp on, wisp, boost, and double boost at your disposal. The double boost is something we'll get to later because it's kind of a special ability. The first and only major non-semi-final level that's not a boss with these characters is Arsenal Pyramid, one of the few fully 3D stages in the game. It's also the longest. The level has 4 distinct parts. Outside the pyramid, double boosting up the pyramid, skydiving into the pyramid, and inside the pyramid. Outside the pyramid is a pretty standard linear hallway line with 1 homing attack or grappling hook part. You can get a feel for the conjoined playstyle in this area, and I feel like this is one of the only times I'm okay with the level being this linear. The second part is double boosting. Of course, you can't talk about double boosting without first talking about Fist Bump, the main theme, which plays during the action, but we don't need to. This is basically hand off the controller time, because even if you fail the button mash at the beginning of the section, you still get to double boost, instead of getting punished with actually having to run down such a long hallway without the double boost. Once you get to the top of the pyramid, you jump inside and begin part 3, the skydiving section. Here, it plays just how you would expect it to. Just avoid lasers, grab the red ring if you want to, and hit the bottom. Simple. The fourth and final section of this level is inside the pyramid, and this is the best designed area in the entire game. There is actually risk and reward in this section by use of wisps. So at the beginning of the section, you have the lightning wisp bone equipped. They'll give you a wisp capsule, and you can start a very long lightspeed dash chain across the entire meat of this area. It has little hazards along the way, but if you fall back to the lower section, there's a good chance you'll fall off and die in the many bottomless pits due to the weird construction of the bottomless pits and the level itself, because it's like all gears and stuff. This path continues until the end of the level, where you are funneled into one path to the end. If you have the burst wisp on equipped, a little farther in, they'll give you a burst wisp, which when you use, it will take you to the higher part of the level where the lightspeed chain was, except this time the objective is different. Instead of the goal being quick reaction time to activate the next chain, instead you are relying on positioning and timing to get to the end. This is the more challenging route overall, but there is less chance of you dying by enemy if you play your cards right. What about the bottom section? Well, it'll thrust you into multiple platforms where you'll have to defeat a lot of enemies to proceed. A longer task for not taking the bigger risk. If only every level was modeled like this one, or better, the game could have been great. But instead we got stuff like Sunset Heights and Aqua Road. Sonic Forces is just disappointing. That's worse than just being bad because it's not laughable, it's not horrible level of bad, it's just so mediocre. The boost formula has been brought low by this game, a once great and long-standing over 10-year formula for Sonic, now brought down to its worst. I give Sonic Forces a 6.7 out of 10. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of BGA TVHT, and goodbye.